We're starting to record. Katie, Jess, are we good to go? Do we feel good about starting? Awesome. As new people are coming in, feel free to share with us your name, where you're calling in from, your horoscope, whether you like sleeping outside. That was our cute little icebreakers that came up for today. We promise we're going to answer real Q&As later today to help y'all. So before we begin, I just want to say it's so lovely to meet y'all. I know it's we can't put everybody off of mute and have an individual conversation, but we want to try to make today as much of a conversation as possible. I'm Lee, your host for today. I'm the founder and CEO of Confetti. And I'm one of the world's experts in employee culture and event planning, especially in the world of virtual team building. My company, Confetti, has over 6,500 customers. We're actually very much nearing the 7,000 mark. And we've worked with companies like Google, Facebook, Spotify, Shopify, Pinterest, Etsy, you name it, in improving their culture. It's been a really beautiful luxury. And a little bit about Katy. She is the CEO of Goody, a platform that helps consumers and businesses send effortless, waste-free gifts that has worked with over 25,000 companies. They've sent over 200,000 gifts. And after joining Goody as its first sales hire, she advanced to the role of CRO and then CEO. She is a self-described gifting fanatic. She is passionate about helping organizations recognize and engage their teams. And prior to Goody, Katy led sales and go-to-market teams at Dropbox. She's a total rock star, and we are so excited to have her with us today. So y'all have come today and spent your precious life hours with us to discuss how to improve employee recognition and appreciation at work. And I just want to say, first off, kudos to all of you for attending. It already shows what amazing cultural leaders we have, people who care about their teams, people who want to make a difference. And we're going to share with you a little bit about what the agenda is for today. We're going to start off by breaking a little bit of our ice together with some polls, and then we're going to jump into talking a little bit about the problem when it comes to employee recognition and appreciation. We're going to share some data as to why it matters. And then at Confetti, we're big on making sure that things are actionable and we're not just fluffy talking to y'all. So we're diving straight into the solutions, me and Katy together, sharing with you actionable points and steps you can do immediately to help you improve your culture and the employee appreciation at work. So we're starting things off with a poll, and we want to know, how is your team doing with employee recognition right now? Does your team, option number one, our team doesn't have, or I'm not sure of, any initiatives in place. This is a safe space, y'all. It's all anonymous, so nothing's going out anywhere. Feel free to share your real opinions. Option number two, we have initiatives set up, but they could be improved, and that's why I'm here. And option number three, our company has successful employee recognition and appreciation initiatives in place. I'm so excited to show y'all the results. When we end the poll, we're going to give it an extra few seconds. And Britt, thanks so much for the sweet girl bosses shout out. Really appreciate it. So y'all can see, hopefully at this point, right, the results. We have 13% of the group here. And at this point, we have about 120 attendees and participants. 13% said our team doesn't have any initiatives in place. So those have most room for improvement. We got 73%. So that makes really the large majority of y'all saying, like, something in place, but we can always improve it. There's improvement around every corner. And then the third one is about 14% say we've got something in place, we're happy with it. So y'all are just here to learn and make that just that much better. Awesome. Moving on. So let's talk a little bit about what's not working. And there are three main problems with employee recognition and appreciation today. So the first one is that they're not personal, but really big growing companies are naturally looking for more scalable solutions and tools to standardize and simplify their solutions. Procurement's always looking for something a bit more simple. And the second one is often doing these efforts on your own end up being a lot of work. So I would love to hear in the chat if y'all feel like there's a lot of work that goes behind employee and recognition, just drop a yes. Number 3, companies aren't taking a strategic approach to their recognition and appreciation efforts, and they're often sticking band-aids after problems start boiling, or after their ENPS starts to dip. It's kind of like, what do? We're gonna now start trying to fix things together. So they wait until things aren't as great. So why does this matter? So almost half of US workers, that's about 46%, left a job because they felt unappreciated. That's huge. And I think many of y'all can kind of feel like a time in the past where they've worked at a place that they didn't feel appreciated and they're like, you know what, I'm leaving this place. Another 65% of respondents said that they would work harder if they felt that their contributions were noticed by management. And this was a research conducted by Bonusly. And the second one that I really love, when employees believe management will recognize them, they are 2.7 times more likely to be highly engaged. 37% of those surveyed said that more appreciation would motivate them to produce better work more often. I feel like this isn't, surprising to any of us. It's like everybody loves to be appreciated. Everyone wants to feel good when they're coming into the workplace, and that makes them work better. Another 2 that I wanted to share, one from Deloitte, one from SHRM, employee engagement, productivity, and performance are 14% higher in organizations with recognition programs than those without. And 68% of HR professionals agreed that employee recognition positively impacts forgot to change my slide. Positively impacts retention, while 56% said it also helps with recruitment. So these are just 4 really great stats that we want to share with you as to why recognition matters. Hopefully these are stats y'all can use when you're talking to your bosses or your CEOs or whoever else about why recognition is important to advocate for. So let's talk a little bit about solutions, shall we? We're going to be breaking down the solution into 3 main categories in our talks. And I like to break down the solution by starting with a strategy and then ending with tactics, which are going to be more of those actionable steps you can take with you and start implementing immediately. So tactics are also broken down into 2 sections, the things that cost you money and the things that don't. And I'm going to start with the things that are FREE free, because I think that, quite frankly, these are the most important parts of building a culture, recognition and appreciation. They actually don't cost you any money. And these are actionable. These are actions that need to be taken and to help build on empathy and trust and collaboration, because something I often share with people is that whether it's confetti or whether it's Goody, we can't fix toxic culture. Toxic culture, it needs a lot of work. It needs like true human to human improvement. And it starts with the things that honestly don't cost you any money. So I've seen teams that were in some of their lowest lows raised to their highest highs. And it's possible using the tactics that we're going to be talking to y'all today. So first, let's talk a little bit about the strategy. You need to think about and often get creative on knowing what initiatives are important to your team and organization, and then matching your recognition and appreciation efforts based off of that. First off, I just want to offer this. If you're not super creative, our team over at Confetti is welcome to help you. And you can fill out a form that we're going to be sending you also after today's presentation, but I'm also going to be dropping it in the chat right now. And there are 4, and we're going to be able with those, with that form to be able to help you put together a better strategy for your culture when it comes to recognition or experiences. So there are 4 main pillars for curating these important initiatives, and you want to analyze your industry. So an example of that is your company, for example, in the pet industry, right? Maybe then you're going to want to celebrate things like National Pet Day, Dog Day, Cat Day. This is something that's going to resonate with your brand. The second one is you're going to want to create appreciation and recognition efforts that are around your milestones. So you want to celebrate the wins. It's a team after all. I often say, companies aren't actually families. You can't fire families. You can't lay off your families. You're a professional sports team together, and you really want to make sure that as you're hitting your wins, as you're winning your games, you're celebrating those together. The third one is culture. So little things that make each company unique, whether you're, something that's maybe very important to your company is things like your corporate anniversary or things like your holiday parties. These are the things that ultimately every company has that cultural element, and you got to listen, read between the lines and see what's most important to your organization. And then the last one here is by request. So you want to survey the team and make sure you're creating experiences that are centered around their needs. And you want to map all these 4 things out and then start to use your budget to start matching which tactics you can afford. Speaking of, in our follow-up email that Jess is going to be shooting over, she's here on the call today. We're going to put a link to our last webinar on how you can optimize your budget management for team building and how to really structure that. And that might be helpful for any of y'all who have missed our last webinar. So let's talk a little bit about the free stuff that we mentioned as promised. And I'm going to go back to surveys. I have a whole slide on that. But the first one that I want to mention is that you need to establish regular feedback and communication. So this is just like the most obvious, like elephant in the room tip that I can give, but it's just establishing those open lines of communication between employees and managers to provide both constructive feedback, but also acknowledge those achievements. You want to have that feedback relayed during those one-on-one meetings to discuss progress, to provide guidance, and recognize those accomplishments. Find the things that y'all are doing and make sure that they're integrated into your meetings, into those day-to-day steps within the organization. I have some team members who come to me and they say, Lee, it doesn't come naturally for me to give these shout outs. And quite frankly, it doesn't come naturally so often to me either. So I literally schedule them into my calendar. And once a week, I say, give people shout outs, and I sit with myself for 15, 20 minutes. And I think to myself, okay, who are the people that deserve hearing a good word from me this week? Who showed up? And sometimes just you got to schedule it in, just like a date or anything else. You got to make sure it's on the calendar, like your gym or any other things that we want to work on in life. So for those of you who have heard me speak before, I often compare personal life and work life together. Work relationships are just like personal relationships. You got to put the work in. You can't just go on a date night with your significant other once a year. You have to do these things regularly in order for people to feel heard, in order for people to feel appreciated. The second big one is just peer-to-peer recognition program. So you want to implement a peer-to-peer recognition program, platforms where employees can acknowledge and celebrate each other's achievements. You want to encourage a culture of appreciation by allowing employees to nominate their employees for outstanding work. So one thing that we do at Confetti, again, it's absolutely free, is that we have a gratitude channel on our Slack. Everybody probably has some of their version of Slack and communication tool. And in each gratitude channel, you can give a shout out to different team members, one or multiple people. And one thing that we did is we had each employee be able to select which values that thing that they're giving a shout out to, how it relates back to company values. Another thing that we did back in 2022 during Valentine's Day is we did this cute little superlatives thing where we can have, the social butterfly of confetti and the one who's most willing to help fix a bug at 3 a.m. and those little things that just get people to feel seen and feel good about themselves. The third one is public acknowledgement. So you want to highlight employee accomplishments in company-wide meetings, newsletters, bulletin boards, Something that we're also building right now, but I've always recommended, is create a wall of fame or some kind of digital platform to showcase outstanding employee achievements. But you really want to be able to make sure that there's some more structured form. If you have like a president's club or something that has like very kind of stricter like KPIs associated with it. The third one is skill and career development. Fourth one, I already lost track, but you want to invest in employees' professional growth by providing opportunities for training and workshops and just skill development that allows them to feel recognized and appreciated. So recognizing and rewarding employees who actively engage in self-improvement and contribute their newly acquired skills to the organization, I just think it's a win-win for everybody. We have a book comp program at Confetti, so if any employee wants to buy a book, those are fully free. There are tools like BetterUp, where you can do one-on-one coaching session, again, if budget allows. You can do lunch and learns. You can do subsidized learning programs where if somebody wants to complete a course on HubSpot or some other program, you can subsidize what it would take for them to be certified in a certain course. Another one that I've seen some of my team members do both physically and virtually is just customized thank you notes. So I'm very heavy on doing like personal thank you notes from me to every single person on the team during their annual anniversary. But managers and colleagues should be writing personalized thank you notes to express appreciation for I think I accidentally went on mute for a second. Y'all can hear me? Awesome. So personalized thank you notes to express appreciation for those specific efforts. Again, for us, it's really big during their annual anniversaries every year to just like write something nice and juicy that just really expresses our gratitude. Employee surveys and inputs. We're going to talk about this pretty significantly in the next slide, but just regularly seeking feedback from employees on recognition preferences, implementing changes based on their input, doing those performance reviews, making sure you're actually making changes. So at Confetti, when we do performance reviews, every manager needs to aggregate all those anonymous feedback, and then they need to create a presentation back to their direct report saying, hey, here are all the things that I'm going to improve over the coming next quarter, 6 months, whatever your cadence is, based off of the feedback that y'all gave me. And that allows people to feel recognized. It allows them to feel appreciated, that their voice and opinions are heard and being taken seriously. All right, so we talked a bit about surveys, but given the time crunch, I won't dive into surveys too much, but I really could have a whole webinar just on this alone. I just want to say that we have surveys we can pass along to you, or if you prefer to use your own survey tools, you can use a link that I'm going to drop right now in the chat. And I think I just realized my last link maybe didn't get sent to the right place. So I'm going to drop that last one in here too. This is a survey template of questions that we recommend you to ask your employees. We're constantly updating this as we're learning new questions that we think are valuable to ask your team members. Employee Hero asks remote workers how employers can improve their work experience, and many respondents mentioned team building and related subjects, wanting more of these experiences. So you want to really understand not just whether they want to do events or whether they don't want to do events, but understanding what kind of events do they want to do, who do they want to interact with, when do they want those experiences, what type of experiences. There's a lot to unpack there. We're going to move on to my last slide before I'm going to move things over to Katie. But the last part is you have 5 implementation tactics. So the first one is knowing that you have different needs per level. So you want to map out your recognition and appreciation by your industry, culture, milestones, and requests. We already covered that. But you're also going to need to break it down by your budget. And there are these 5 main areas where employees want to see recognition and appreciation. The first one is by level. So one thing that I highly recommend to just kind of understand is there's 3 main cultures within the organization. You have your team culture, you have your departmental culture, and you have your company-wide culture. And you got to work on all 3 of them. It's not good to just work on one. We recommend to rotate understand what your different cultures are. There could be diversity, equity, and inclusion, and interest groups, and other different cultures within the organization, but ultimately rotating between those 3 every quarter. So one month you have a team event, the next month you have a departmental event, the month after that you have a company-wide event, and then it rotates. You have a smaller team or a bigger company or whatever, you can kind of play around. Maybe you only do company-wide events twice a year, and then you do team and departmental events more often. But noticing that you're going to need recognition and appreciation within each one of those 3 levels as well. Another thing that I wanted to mention is offsite. So if you are gathering together, just really make sure that employees feel extremely connected and recognized coming out of those super special meetings that maybe only happen once a year, maybe only happen once every few years. If budgets are getting tightened up, you really want to take those opportunities while you're physically together to just look somebody in the eye and say, hey, I just want to let you know, you've done really good work and we really appreciate you here. And the third one is through gifting, which I'm going to leave Katy to talk a lot about. And I'm going to finish off by talking about swag and diversity, equity, and inclusion. So swag is pretty obvious, but you want to be able to give something that comes back to the company that the team can be proud of. And for diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is often overlooked in the recognition category, but recognition doesn't always mean that it's individual accomplishments. It can mean other elements about their life. So what isn't shown here is that not all strategies need to be tangible, but again, there are elements of mentioning people's birthdays, mentioning their how long they've stayed at a certain organization in the Slack channels, their milestone achievements, asking managers to just share one piece of positive feedback with their direct reports every single week, strategies that truly don't cost $1. And just saying something like, hey, I saw how supportive you were to a fellow colleague this week when they expressed having trouble with XYZ. And I really appreciate how empathetic and how willing to help you are. Like, those are the things that are truly going to move culture forward. So after this webinar, I really encourage y'all to take that 5-10 minutes, take everybody that you really work with, make a list of them, even the people that you don't really like, and say, what is that one thing that I like about them? And I promise you that by this time next week or the week after, the vibes will be back on. People will feel good. You'll feel good. You'll be proud of yourself as a leader, as a manager, and notice how the small things can make a really big difference. I'm going to move over to Katy, and I'm so excited for her to take things on.
Yeah, thank you, Lee. A lot of amazing tips throughout there that I was definitely writing down and thinking about what we can implement at Goody. Because it's a journey, right? We're never going to be fully there. And even as a company who thinks a lot about employee recognition, because we're trying to help all these other businesses, we have areas that we can improve. So really appreciate all of those tips you shared with us. As Lee graciously introduced me earlier in this webinar, my name is Katy. I'm the CEO of Goody. In case you haven't heard of Goody, we are a gifting platform that is helping companies stay engaged with their employee base and show recognition. We are a digital first company, and we're actually born out of COVID. And the story of Goody is that we originally started as an app for your personal life. At a time where everyone was staying at home, wasn't able to get together as much, we wanted to make it easy to send gifts to one another. And so created this app, and something that we noticed was that a lot of people were not only using it for their personal life, but people were bringing it into their professional life as well, indicating that there was a gap, that they wanted ways to easily say thank you to their employees, celebrate loyalty, celebrate hard work. And so we started on a mission to building a platform that can help the companies put an actual program in place for those types of initiatives. And since then, as Lee mentioned, we've worked with over 25,000 companies. One exciting stat is we definitely have very much so surpassed the 200K gifts. We're now over 500,000 gifts sent. So I do absolutely see myself as a gifting expert. And with that, I'm ready to jump into some top do's and don'ts from what we have observed on the Goody side. So our very first do, and this is like, if there's one do and don't you take away, like this is definitely the top one, let recipients swap gifts. And so again, if you're not familiar with Goody, when we talk about swap, what that means is that we're giving our recipients choice. That when we send them a gift to recognize their efforts, celebrate their anniversary, they have the opportunity to choose what's most meaningful to them. And out of all of those, 500,000 gifts that we've sent, majority of people are keeping swap on, and over 40% of people end up swapping their gift, indicating that the majority do want to have that opportunity to choose. So there's that old adage of, it's the thought that counts. Actually, studies show that it's really not the thought that counts with gifting, because people don't put value on your thoughts. They're putting value on the actual item. So when someone chooses an item that they want, they're going to remember that gifting experience in a more positive light. So one of the number one things I will say when you're doing a recognition program, it's very hard to have a one size fits all, especially if you have a very diverse workforce. So give them the choice and the opportunity to choose what is going to be most meaningful to them. And don't send gift cards. So a few different reasons on don't sending gift cards. So one, there's a lot of tax implications. And I have to say this, not a financial advisor, I am not a tax advisor, but if you are sending gift cards, you definitely should talk to your financial department or your actual tax advisors, because whenever you send a gift card, no matter the amount, you do have to think about the tax implications. There's not a strict rules, at least in the United States, on physical gifts. So there's one less headache for you to have, or hurdle for you have to go over if you're not sending gift cards. Additionally, some stories we've heard from the employees that we work with, they really like the idea of being able to choose a gift or getting a physical item, because in the past, when they've gotten gift cards, whether it's an Amazon gift card, Visa, they feel obligated to spend that on like household items, not actually something for themselves. So when you think about putting in a recognition program where someone gets to choose something that they want and something that's going to be for them, giving them the physical items to choose from really resonates well. Okay. Gifts for brands whose values you support. So this really ties back into those DEI initiatives. So a lot of companies are stating publicly what their missions are, what their value is, how they are going to embrace DEI, but where are they actually spending their dollars is important. What are they doing to ensure that when they are going to invest, like a program like employee recognition, that they're supporting businesses that align with their values? Something we heard very early on as we started building Goody was that companies wanted to work with sustainable brands, female-founded brands, Black-owned business brands, a number of things that really aligned and stayed true to what they were trying to help build as a company. So this is also very great in when you're thinking about these recognition programs, who to include. Do you have DEI groups at your company that you want to make part of the decision of what gifts we should send? What companies do we want to align ourselves with? Okay. Another big thing when we're thinking about employee recognition is consistency. So I've seen this a number of times. I've heard it a number of times, like a simple example of your birthday's on a weekday. You get the Slack shout out. If you're in office, maybe there's a balloon at your desk. But then if your birthday's maybe on a weekend, no one's acknowledging it at the company. It goes missed. So if there is going to be this recognition, even if it's on the free side of like Slack shoutouts, make sure it's consistent, that no matter your level, no matter who the employee is, what the occasions you're choosing to celebrate, make sure there's consistency across the board. Also, have some conversations with your employees. So we've definitely found that internally. We have some employees who really prefer to not have birthday shout outs. So have that be one of your onboarding questions. Talk to your employees, have the manager ask them, how do you like to be recognized? How do you like to be celebrated? So you want to make sure that if you're going to implement programs like this, that you have consistency across the entire board and that every birthday gets celebrated, every work anniversary gets recognized. And so one of the best ways to do that, to make sure that all of those anniversaries and birthdays are recognized, is to make it programmatic. And that's really where Goody can help you. So with Goody, we integrate with over 35 different HRIS systems. And so with that, we can integrate directly into your Rippling, Workday, UKG, many systems here. And what we're going to do is on a nightly basis, sync up and look at your employees who are on your team, what's their start date, when's their anniversary, when's their birthday, to ensure that they're automatically getting sent a gift on those special occasions. So it's definitely like, it's a lot of work if you're managing it on your own. If you're using a spreadsheet or calendar invites, there are solutions, and that's exactly where Goody can help you, is setting up a programmatic response to making sure everybody is getting recognized for each of those occasions. And don't waste your gift budget. So budgets are tight. We have to do more with less, seems to be the theme. Even I would say my team definitely feels that. I'm constantly being like, do you really need that software? Do you need this? Like, can we cut it down here? So I completely understand, particularly right now, when budgets are tight, you want to be very protective of it. You want to make sure that budget is being used in the most efficient and effective way possible. And something that's really important for Goody is a few takes. We only charge you when gifts are accepted. So again, kind of going back to how our program works, when you're going to send out those recognition gifts, if someone doesn't find what they like, or maybe they don't have, they're just not interested, you're not paying for it. So when you adopt programs like Goody, then you have the opportunity to not have to buy a bunch of gifts in bulk up front, but really use it as needed, and therefore allowing your budget to go as far as possible. And do give gifts that give back. So another big trend that we find, I actually got this from my team a little bit earlier today. After the Maui wildfires, we put up a charity, Maui Strong. And it's been one of the highest redemptions of a charity thus far this month. Every month we have a few different charities that we put up. And what we're finding is that employees love the opportunity to use part of their recognition and benefits to give back to causes they care about. I think that's so special. All of you have built teams with wonderful people. I think for most engaged employees, if you ask them, like, why do they love work so much? It's always about the people they work with. And I think when you give them opportunities for people to show up in a way that allows them to give back, even when it comes to gift giving, when they're the receiver, you'll find that they'll often do it. So having charity and having gifts and options that allow your employees to give back is really important and really increases that NPS for the employees who receive gifts. And finally, one of our last don'ts here, don't spend your time worrying about size, colors, allergy, shipping. That goes right back to our first one of choice. Give people the choice. Use a program that will allow you to send a gift, allow that recipient to choose a size that's appropriate to them, choose a color that's appropriate to them, choose the cookies that are gluten-free to make sure it fits their diet. Those are not details that you should having to be worrying about with the technology that's available today. So embrace, even on our free plan with Goody, you can send someone cookies and the recipient gets to choose the flavor, put in their address. You don't have to worry about any of these details, and it shouldn't be something that you're manually managing. And our final do. Make sure this goes back to the other one, right? Consistency. There shouldn't be introducing programs that are only for your US employees, but you want to introduce programs that are inclusive of your entire company. Making sure that when you introduce a new program or you're hosting an event, how do you ensure that it's inclusive across the entire company or across the entire team or department? So make sure when you're thinking about these programs that you can meet the needs of your domestic employees here in the US, but also your international employees as well. And finally, we're going to leave you with some do's here. To wrap it up, make sure you're allowing choice, letting those recipients swap gifts, gift brands with values, automate that gift giving by integrating with your HRIS, and find ways to give back in that process, and include all of your employees across the board. All right. And finally, so we have a lot of tips that we left you with. And as I mentioned earlier about continuous improvement, as you begin to embrace these different tips, programs, make sure you're surveying. As Lee said, we probably could do a whole nother webinar on surveying, but collecting that feedback from your employees is so critical to making sure you've chosen the right programs to put in place and that they're meaningful to your employees.
Awesome. Well, we wanted to move over to Q&A time, and right at the end of the webinar, which is only in a few more minutes, all things considered, we're going to be sharing our SHRM code in case any of y'all want to use that for any of your SHRM, I don't know if it's certifications, if I can call it that, but I know that many people are here for that code. There is an ability to add questions in the Zoom chat. So let me know if you have any. I think I see already a handful coming up. Awesome. So question number 1, can I automate or schedule these kinds of initiatives in advance? So I'm going to, just for those who are new and haven't heard, I want to just share a little bit about Confetti in case y'all didn't hear. But Confetti is a platform that helps companies put together really fun team building events online in a super simple way. We help with all kinds of fun experiences like escape quests, coworker feud, trivia, making it super unique. But we also have diversity, equity, and inclusion and experiences that help with soft skills. With Confetti, we can totally automate and schedule these kinds of initiatives in advance. And Kate, maybe you can share a little bit about whether that's the case with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So on our free plan, you can manually schedule gifts, and then on our Teams plan, that's the one that we can integrate with our HRIS system to make sure those gifts are automatically scheduled and going out without you having to do anything.
Yeah, and I actually recommend to do a lot of that scheduling in advance because it's kind of a set it and forget it. It allows you to just open your mind up to new initiatives and not have to be like, oh, it's another month, I need to think about it again. But by scheduling things in advance, you're showing your consistency and your commitment towards that appreciation programs, those recognition programs. It allows you to be able to just be more organized. So we have a few different ways to be able to help with that. Margaret reached out saying, what have you found to be the most cost-effective way to celebrate employees? So, Katie, do you want to go for that first? I have some thoughts, but I saw you go off of mute. So
yeah. So I'll first go with some of those. I think as Lee started this webinar, like you absolutely should have all of the free stuff, make sure implemented into your culture. So something that have found like to be very effective is to make sure that we have channels for those kudos and recognition. And then as a leader of the company, making sure it's spotlighted. So whether it's a Google form that you set up, it's a Slack channel, you need to make sure that you have those channels available. And then as leaders in your company, you have to set the tone, make sure they're active, making sure that people stay engaged. So I think the most effective ways is to just ensuring that people feel seen throughout the workplace. And I think you can get a lot done with a lot of free tactics that were shared here today.
Yeah, absolutely. The free things honestly are probably the things that require the most amount of consistency and ultimately are probably the most effective. Like, you want to hear from your boss that you're acknowledged and that they feel like you're doing good work, and it really starts there. And I completely agree with Katie. Like, you got to lead by example and start with you and what impact you can do. We have in our blog a lot of really great free resources and different ideas of what you can do, and I highly recommend to check that out. Awesome. We have Debbie here that I think maybe is actually more of a personal, now that I'm reading it a little bit better. So Debbie will get in touch with you shortly after, but let's see what else we have. Donna said, what platforms do you use to survey the staff? So we use a handful of different tools. There's the Google form. We use our Notion form. We used to use Lattice as well. And there's another company called JobSage that we've been using and has a free or very affordable arm that we're big advocates of. Maybe y'all can also drop in the chat what survey tools y'all use for your team members. Katie, do you have one that you use for your company?
Yeah, I just wanted to throw we use a very simple Google form at times. We're as with many of you, building out these programs, and as we go to find maybe a full-on surveying tool, that doesn't mean we don't do it in the meantime. So something that we've used to just make sure we're having those moments and check-ins is a Google form. And it's actually so insightful across the board and really can drive change in culture to make sure that when we're thinking about initiatives, we're setting up the right things for our employees.
Yeah, and I love that a lot of the Google Suite tools are free. So again, not everything needs to break the bank. Adrian asked a good question. Would you suggest surveying employees immediately after implementing a new recognition strategy? And I'll actually share a few things that I think about it. So you want to survey people before you actually create that recognition strategy, because you want to see what is it that you're missing and be able to create a strategy based off of some of their feedback. Once you get those results, I always recommend, like, in your next all hands, in your next town hall, like, share with everybody what you learned, because so many times employees feel like they filled out a form and then they have no idea what happened with the results. They're like, okay, there goes another 5-10 minutes wasted. Like, didn't get any follow-ups about that. So you want to be able to show, like, this is the work that y'all did of filling out this, 2-10-minute form, like, resulted in us learning this, and this is the change that's going to be implemented immediately versus next year versus whenever, and give them a time frame that they can follow. And then, of course, as those initiatives are actually being rolled out, you want to start monitoring, like, hey, did this accomplish what it is that you set out to accomplish? Are you satisfied with the benefit? Are you utilizing it? And also trying to find any kind of analytics to help support continuing to invest, or maybe reallocating those dollars. Sometimes people will say, I really want A, and then you give them A, and then they don't end up using it. So what went wrong? What was the discrepancy between those two? Katie, let me know if you want to answer anything else on that front, but otherwise.
No, totally in agreement. The first step is getting your baseline, knowing where to start, to then use input to put together a strategy. And then as you implement the strategy, having those check-ins along the way.
Yeah, you want to do those check-ins probably around twice a year is like our recommended amount of times. It's just the amount of being like, okay, 1 year is too much, and multiple times a year, like every quarter is also too much in terms of too frequent. So once every 6 months gives you enough of time to implement a new strategy, ask for feedback, implement a new strategy, see how that progresses, and then ultimately get new feedback, and then the cycle repeats. We have a few other questions here that came in through the chat. How do you measure employee recognition participation with Goody and confetti or other activities? Katie, you want to give us a start?
Yeah, so for those of you who are not familiar with Goody, one of my favorite parts of the entire gifting experience is that after a recipient accepts their gift, they have an opportunity to give a thank you note. And I will tell you that is somewhere the most like magic and like delightfulness happens in the Goody experience. So one area that I think is a really good indicator when you're using a program like Goody is just overall acceptance rate. And we have a full reporting suite in our tool, so you can look at how often things are open and accepted. But second, those thank you notes are really magical. And a lot of times we find that people actually call out like, hey, I really appreciate you giving me a choice, or, oh, I've seen this blend jet on TikTok. I've been wanting to try it, was really excited to have an opportunity to get it. So it gives a chance in real time for your employees or whoever you're gifting to give you feedback on their appreciation for the gift that you sent their way.
And I think there's a really beautiful story that I quickly glanced through in the chat about somebody's kid in their backpack, and you can see how those physical items that ultimately get gifted over to you have like a lasting memory that gets brought onto people's day-to-day lives. From the event side of things, I think what's really nice is like you'll feel the camaraderie during the experience itself. With events, it's a very shared energy that has an immediate impact. Usually after a good event, people are talking about it afterwards. They were like, oh my gosh, that was so fun. They're sending those thank yous in the Slack channel or whatever tool you have. We do have in certain experiences, we're in a little bit of an A/B test in terms of measuring participation satisfaction, but after every single experience, we do ask that planner the satisfaction of those events. But what's been really beautiful with Confetti is that 76% of participants, this is over 1,000 participant information has been gathered, gave our events a 10 out of 10. And then the other percentages were still very high in the 9s and 8s. So it's been really beautiful to see that kind of impact with these experiences. And I'm sure it's the same way with Goody. Like, we want to build partnerships and long-term relationships with you as an organization. And it's our incentive to want to make sure that y'all are happy and that your employees are happy, because otherwise we don't have, there's no point in what we're doing and what we're building. All right, we got actually a lot more questions here. Katie, there's a quick one on here in terms of how can someone connect on becoming a vendor at Goody. I know at least with Confetti, we have like vendors at withconfetti.com. We also have a page on our website. Do you guys have a landing page for vendors to get involved?
Yeah, we do. We have a partnerships form on our website that you can fill out. And then we'll also take note of who asked that and look at our attendee list can reach out directly. But we do have a partnership form on our site.
Awesome. A few other questions here. Let's see. Can you recommend a tactic for presenting alternatives to gift cards to leadership? I would love to implement Goody for our company, but gift cards are easy and everyone loves money, which is a hard mindset to challenge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So a few tactics. So one, I would say first off is a lot of people end up coming to us, as I mentioned, to move away from gift cards because of the tax implications. So definitely a question to ask your leadership team, or understand how have you all been handling those gift cards today? Is it are you being compliant as you're gifting them out? And that, as you could imagine, could spark a lot of different conversations of how do we move away. But second, again, my number one advice to you all was like, leave room for choice. So an alternative is when you look at a platform like Goody, we still do offer gift cards on there. We understand for some people, ultimately, that is the best choice for them. So what I like to think about Goody is that we're not trying to fully replace gift cards if that's not what's right for your company or the right way to recognize. But using Goody, you can have options, right? So for that person who's like feels obligated that if they got an Amazon gift card, they now need to use it to buy diapers or household items. Instead, they can go and actually choose something for themselves, or they could choose that spa gift card instead of the Amazon gift card to really treat themselves. So it's about giving people choice here. And I think using a platform like Goody, you can give them the choice of a gift card, but also a full catalog of products for themselves as well.
Awesome. We have another question here. and I think it's an acronym, it's GM, having successfully served thousands of clients with employee engagement, wellness, and recognition experiences. What surprised you about your own people and company? Ooh, this one's a deep one. I think ultimately on my side, one of the things that surprised me is that really like you can't satisfy everybody. There's always going to be that pinch, but the best way to combat that is through that personalization and through that customization of letting people kind of choose and pick their own adventure and make them feel like they are getting something. And both Confetti and Goody have those solutions to be able to make sure that everybody feels that way. And I think on top of that, like, again, the free stuff is really what's going to be driving a positive culture, sharing with people that your words, being transparent and direct with feedback, and ultimately like just doing good by them as a human being, first and foremost, is really what is going to make the biggest impact on culture. It's not going to be, of course, everybody likes more money, but compensation aside, like, people sometimes often give up really good paychecks when they're not happy at work. So money isn't everything.
Yeah, I would completely echo your sentiment there, Lee. I think for me, a big thing has making sure that I'm touching base with the employees regularly so that they have an opportunity to be seen and heard. And what is, can be surprising is that, money isn't always number one, but it is that feeling of connection with their fellow employees, and that they're inspired and motivated by the mission of the company. So I do believe like a lot of the stuff that you can really implement here as leaders is free and is really about that human to human connection and making sure that people feel seen and appreciated.
I think we answered everybody's questions, and in the spirit of how we started this webinar, where we know so many of y'all are in back-to-back with things, we're happy to give you a few moments of your life back to grab your next drink of water, use the restroom before you head into that next meeting. But we thank you so much for being here, and we want to be able to continue that relationship together. So here are two different ways to contact us, one for Confetti, one for Goody. If you're looking for a really memorable way to grab your team together for Hispanic and Latinx month, which is coming up in September and October, for Halloween, for the holiday season, to celebrate those milestones, reach us out at demos@withconfetti.com. Our phone number, we have an instant chat on the website. And as a courtesy for being a part of here, use thank you 50 for $50 off your first Confetti event. Don't forget that SHRM code here. And Katy, if we want to reach you, it's support at ongoody.com. And of course, reach them at ongoody.com on their website.
Yeah. And we are running a special. I know, not trying to get too ahead of ourselves, but holidays are right around the corner. So if you haven't started thinking about your holiday gifts yet, I definitely encourage you all to do so. We'd love to work with you. If you can sign a commitment to those gifts by the 15th, we're offering a 10% discount on that custom holiday merchandise. Reach out to our support team, let them know that you attended this webinar, and they'll get you in touch with the right person to start that project.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for being here. We're so excited to continue these relationships together, and we hope you all have a wonderful day and that you get to take these 5 minutes back and do something positive for yourselves.
Yeah, give someone a shout out.
Yeah, give someone a shout out. Exactly.
Yeah.
Recognize, appreciate them.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Katy, thanks again also for you joining us.